Testimony on the posture of U.S. Northern Command, Southern Command, and Strategic Command to inform its review of the defense authorization request for fiscal year 2017. I'd like to extend our appreciation to the witnesses for their many years of distinguished service and to the men and women of our military who defend our nation every day. Admiral Tidd, this is your first time testifying before the committee as the commander of U.S. Southern Command. After nearly 2 months in command, I look forward to your assessment of the challenges within your area of responsibility, as well as your strategy to confront them. It's clear you face a daunting array of security and governance challenges in the region, yet SOUTHCOM continues to suffer from persistent resource shortfalls that undermine efforts to confront these challenges. I hope you will outline for the committee where you're being forced to accept the greatest risk as a result of these shortfalls. Of particular concern is the deteriorating situation in Central America, where feeble governance, endemic corruption, and weak security institutions are allowing transnational criminal organizations to operate with impunity. We, of course, must improve and adequately resource our drug interdiction strategy to combat these groups, but we must also renew our efforts to combat the real driver of drug trafficking, the demand here at home. The demand for the drugs that these groups traffic, heroin, methamphetamine, and cocaine, is too high and the profits too great to dissuade these criminals from their illicit actions. To be clear, the threat posed by these groups extends beyond the drugs they smuggle into our communities. The smuggling routes they control are also used to traffic weapons, bulk cash, and human beings. And as your predecessor, General Kelly, testified before this committee, terrorist organizations could seek to leverage these same smuggling routes to move operatives with intent to cause grave harm to our citizens or even bring weapons of mass destruction into the United States. On a more positive note, I'm interested in your assessment of the ongoing talks in Colombia and how you believe the U.S. can best support our partners as they enter a new and likely more challenging era. Colombia, once on the cusp of becoming a failed state, has emerged from decades of conflict as a stark example of what sustained U.S. support and engagement can achieve. It's vitally important that we continue to invest in our relationship during this critical period so as not to squander the extraordinary progress that has been achieved. I'd like to take a moment to recognize the military service members conducting detention operations at Guantanamo Bay. Too often in the course of debating the future of the detention facility, we lose sight of the remarkable men and women who serve honorably under extraordinarily difficult conditions. Admiral, please convey our deepest appreciation for their service and the professionalism they display each and every day on behalf of our nation. Admiral Gortney, I look to you for an update on the current state of U.S.-Mexican security cooperation and opportunities for our two nations to strengthen this vital partnership. While Mexico's efforts to combat transnational criminal organizations have resulted in notable successes by capturing or killing senior cartel leaders such as El Chapo, the security situation remains highly volatile and continues to directly impact the security of our southern border. Heroin, largely produced in Mexico, continues to ravage communities all across the nation and demands a renewed effort to combat this scourge both in our seats and also at its source. I also look forward to your assessment of the increasing threat posed to the homeland by the development of advanced missiles capable of carrying nuclear payloads by Russia, Iran, and North Korea. Admiral Haney, the strategic threats to the United States and its allies have increased exponentially in just the few short years since you've taken the helm of Strategic Command. While nuclear, cyber, and counterspace threats generally have been on the rise, Secretary Carter's warning that, quote, "we're entering a new strategic era," has great implications for STRATCOM. In return to great power competition noted by the Secretary means that deterring Russia and China once again assumes primacy in your planning and operations. Whatever President Obama may have hoped for, the United States can no longer seek to reduce the role of nuclear weapons in our national security strategy or narrow the range of contingencies under which we would have to consider their use. U.S. Strategic Command faces significant near and longer-term challenges. In about 15 to 20 years, U.S. nuclear submarines, ICBMs, air-launched cruise missiles, heavy bombers, and nuclear-capable tactical fighters will have to be withdrawn from operational service, having been extended well beyond their original service lives. Modernization programs are in place to replace these systems, but there is no slack left in the schedule. Today's Congress supports fully the modernization of the U.S. nuclear deterrent. Any reduction in funding over the next decade, however, could delay the development of these replacement systems, increasing strategic risk at a time when Russia and other countries continue to modernize their nuclear capabilities. Russia, then, is your near-term challenge. Russia's aggression in Ukraine and destabilizing actions in Syria take place under a nuclear shadow. Russia has threatened our NATO allies with nuclear strikes, is developing a new nuclear ground-launched cruise missile capable of ranging most of Europe, and has fired air and sea-launched cruise missiles against targets in Syria, missiles that could be armed with nuclear warheads and flown against European and U.S. targets. And so your task, Admiral Haney, is to ensure that Strategic Command is prepared to deter Russian nuclear provocations. This requires better intelligence about Russian nuclear capabilities and plans, a nuclear planning process tied to EUCOM and NATO operations, and a survivable, well-exercised and ready nuclear force. Finally, as this committee continues its review of the Goldwater-Nichols Act, we're interested to hear your views as to whether our defense enterprise is organized properly to perform the missions that cut across the functional and geographic boundaries we have drawn. We also welcome any ideas on reform we might consider to make our defense enterprise more effective without minimizing the vital tasks that must be done. I noted to the members of the committee that yesterday we had an all-Army panel, and today it's an all-Navy panel, a definite upgrade. Senator Reid.